Hi, I'm Kay. I'm a homeschool mom for over 20 years. Welcome to my porch. I'm guessing you're here because your school district just closed because of the coronavirus for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe more. And you're a good mom or dad and you don't want to waste that time. I've got some ideas for you. First, relax. You have got this. You've been teaching your children their entire lives. From day one, you taught your children to sit up, to crawl, to walk, to talk. You taught them what to say when the neighbor next door offered them a cookie. You've taught your children so many important life skills. You can absolutely teach them the alphabet, help them with their science projects, and you can definitely keep them busy for the next few weeks. You can do it. All right, how about some ideas? I came up with some of my own, and I also talked to a friend who is a homeschool mom, and we've got some ideas and some ways that you're gonna get through the next few weeks, and your child is gonna have a great time. You're gonna feel so good about those hours that you spent together. Okay, let's get started. My first suggestion is something that you've probably already been doing if you have toddlers and up. Read aloud together, and not just with little ones who can't read yet. Obviously, you've been reading Goodnight Moon and Dr. Seuss with your little ones. My suggestion is continue to do that with your older children. I still do this with my high schoolers. Here's the thing, as they get older, the books get better. So pick an age-appropriate book and read aloud, and better yet, take turns reading aloud. My 14-year-old daughter now prefers to read aloud to me. She has a great time doing lots of different voices for the different characters and making sure that she reads it in the right tone. All of those things are great skills to encourage public speaking maybe in the future, or just being comfortable speaking to another person and being confident. So read aloud with your children. If they're just learning to read, have them sit beside you and follow along in the book as you go. That will encourage their reading skills. This made a huge difference for my son. When he was struggling to read, he was about 8, third grade, and I was getting a little worried. So that's what we did. We read a book that he enjoyed. It happened to be the How to Train Your Dragon books. I read with him, and he followed along. He started reading them on his own. This is a kid who now reads things like organic chemistry and Greek in his spare time. So reading aloud with your children is a great way to encourage them in whatever they're studying. If you learn to read, you can do anything. You can teach yourself whatever you want to know. How about making flashcards together? Did you use flashcards in the past? So here's what I'm going to suggest. Just simple flashcards, and it can be for any subject. I did an A for an alphabet, but it can be math problems, it can be foreign language skills, it can be even science questions, anything that your child is studying. Something to keep in mind with children who are just learning the alphabet, you may write the letters this way. Keep in mind, certain fonts are going to be different in the books that they read. So it might be very obvious to you that this is a lowercase a, just like this is. That may not be obvious to a child who's just learning the alphabet. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to pick out all the A's in a favorite book, that the A's in that font may look a little different. The other thing that's fun is if you're making a flashcard that's, say, A for apple, come up with as many things as you can think of that start with A. The sillier, the better. So it could be apple, could be ant, could be great Aunt Agatha, could be aardvark. Whatever you can think of that starts with A that makes your child giggle, that will be the thing that helps them to remember. Let's see, what else? How about some other subjects like math? There are math worksheets available online. Chances are if your child is out of school for several weeks, that there will be assignments from their regular teachers available to you. And that's excellent. Work on that. But if you're looking for some extra stuff to do, there's plenty of stuff online. Khan Academy, K-A-H-N Academy, has some great math lessons, and I think they've actually expanded to other subjects. So check out Khan Academy for some excellent instruction online. Some other things that are math would be cooking together, measuring ingredients, measuring a cup of flour or a quarter cup of sugar, or measuring milk or water or eggs, whatever it is. If you need to measure something, you can count the eggs, you can count the number of quarter cups it takes to make a full cup. All of those are ways to practice math skills in doing the things that you would probably be doing anyway. Another way to use cooking for math skills is, how do we double or triple this recipe? If the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup and I need twice that, how much do I need? Great way to include math in just things that you would normally be doing throughout your day. Another suggestion is you can make up math problems for your child, but then have them make up problems for you. See if you can solve it, and if there's something quirky about the way they made the math problem that's not going to work, it gives you a chance to talk through it and explain how the math problem should work. Other things that are just sort of general life skills type problems, work out an area problem. For instance, if we were going to put carpet in this room, how much would we need? Measure the room, do the math to figure out how much that would take. Or paint a wall, how much space do we have to cover with paint? All of those are real life skills, word problem kind of things that just kind of came to mind as I was trying to think of ways that you could work on some math skills just in day-to-day life and things that you can do while you're stuck at home. Another thing that is kind of a fun math problem that starts tying in some other subjects would be, how far is it from here, from where we live, wherever that is, to school, to grandma's house, to New York, to Cairo, to Beijing? How far is it to travel to those places? Maybe things like, how long would it take to get there by plane, by car, if that were possible? All of those are ways to include math in conversations that you might have anyway. I've thought of some other subjects too that you might want to include as part of your day, ways that you can just naturally incorporate it in your day-to-day life, just the way a lot of homeschool moms do. Something like history. Maybe a favorite figure from history, a hero from history that you enjoy reading. You enjoy reading their biographies, autobiographies if they're available. Even historic fiction can be helpful. If it's well done, it can help you get an idea of what day-to-day life is like in another period in history. You can do things like imagine a day in the life of a favorite figure in history, say Laura Ingalls Wilder. This would be the late 1800s. What would her day have been like? And how much of that can you try out for a day? Could you possibly eat the same foods that she would have eaten? Could you get up at the same time? Can you imagine the chores that she would have done? And you can do this with any figure in history. And it doesn't have to be from 100 years ago. It could be from parents or grandparents' time, just within the past 50 to 75 years. What would have been different? What would school have been like at whatever point in history? Did they learn at home? Did they go to school? Did they have a tutor come to them? What would school have been like for them? What was travel like during that time? All of those are ways to explore a particular figure that already interests you and your child. Look at sports figures. That's another place to turn. It might be a sports figure who is popular now, but is maybe from a different area. Learn something about where they're from and what life would be like for them. Maybe your ancestors, if you know that your ancestors are from another part of the world, if you know when they came over, maybe they came here within a recent generation, or maybe it was long ago, what would that period have been like for them? What would the travel have been like? Those are ways to tie that into your family and to spark some interest. I want to say before I keep going, all of these are suggestions. You may pick one that really appeals to you. Don't feel like you have to do everything. This is kind of a trap that homeschool moms fall into. We tend to want to do everything, and you can't, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. How about looking up current events, lots of newspaper stuff online, from grandpa's childhood? What's something that a grandparent or other relative or neighbor remembers from their childhood, maybe in the 1940s? They might remember something about World War II. What was going on in their lives? What would have been current events on their birthday, for example? Those are some fun things that you can look up, things that were not possible when I first started homeschooling well over 20 years ago. Looking up things like that online would have been a pretty big job if it was even possible, and that's pretty readily available to most of us now. How about some science? Want some science ideas? Nature walks, you probably have thought about that, looking at the different plants in your neighborhood, if that's an option to go for a walk. If you live in an apartment, this may be a little more difficult, but you can do virtual nature walks. One possibility for a good search term is look for a treadmill workout where it actually just takes you through a walk of a park somewhere or a city. It might be Paris or Rome, or one that I really enjoyed was Angkor Wat, which is in Cambodia. And you get the experience of walking through an area and not just necessarily the tourist video kind of stuff. It's as though you are walking through it. That's a really fun way to explore other places. So look for treadmill workouts. That's a good search term to include. How about planting seeds? If you have some seeds, this is excellent. You just need some dirt. Potting soil is perfect. And plant some seeds. But if you don't have seeds, do you have dried beans? If you have dried beans, those are seeds. Some of them are treated so that they are not going to sprout. What you can do to make sure is soak them overnight, or just wrap them in a wet paper towel for a day or so and see if they look like they're going to sprout. That'll give you an idea of whether that experiment's going to work. My giant dog just came for a visit. Hi, Abby. But that's an experiment that involves something that you may already have in your house. Use just a disposable cup or an old cup that you don't mind putting dirt in. Put the beans in, and it'll take a few days, but hopefully those will sprout and you'll have a chance to see some stuff grow. Another possibility besides a cup is just a plastic, like a zip top bag, and put the soil and the seeds in there, and you probably can get a pretty good look at the development of the roots. Something else that's a possibility to try, and this is, I know online because I saw it recently, a teacher was using this experiment to explain how washing your hands chases away the virus. It's not exactly how it works, but it's definitely a way to communicate this, especially to young children. Take a shallow pan, like a pie plate, something like that. A bowl will work too, but a shallow pan is excellent. You put water and soap, like liquid soap. Actually, no, just water and pepper. You have the liquid soap in another container. Sprinkle pepper over the top of that. Dip your finger in liquid soap. Dip one in with nothing, see what happens. Take the one that's been dipped in soap and put that in, and the pepper flakes will scatter away. And it's an experiment about the surface tension of the water, but it's also a fun way to encourage younger students to wash their hands, and how soap is going to help chase the virus away. But a really fun experiment with stuff you've almost certainly got in your house already. Look around outside. If you can, there's probably at least some nature that you can see from your window. Look at trees, look at any flowers, anything that's growing. Are trees starting to leaf out yet? Anything like that that you can see from your window or that you can see in your yard. If going for a walk is a possibility, that's perfect. Gather some leaves and you can look them up and see what kind of plants they are. You can possibly measure rainfall. If you have a yard or even just a balcony that gets a little bit of rain, Set up a rain gauge, measure how much rain you're getting, compare it to the online reports of rain in your area and see how close it is. Maybe make a sundial. You can look up information for that online and look how the sun helps you to tell what time it is, and also how the angle of the sun can change over time depending on how long you have to run this experiment. If your children are used to going to bed relatively early because they have to get up early for school, can they stay up late? If, say, bedtime's normally 9 o'clock, can they stay up till 10? And this is totally a decision that your family can make. It might not work for your child. But if staying up later is an option when they don't have to get up early for school, look out at the moon and the stars. Talk about the phases of the moon. Download a stargazer app. There are different ones, but look and see what you can find that will tell you, as you hold it up to the sky, your phone will tell you what the constellation is in that area. That's something that would be really fun and really special to do that's not normally possible when they have to get up early for school. So that's something that my children have really enjoyed over the years, when we'll take a night and stay up late and watch a meteor shower or a lunar eclipse, or simply just to look at the sky and look at the stars. Another experiment that's really fun, this is one I've done with each of my children as they get to, I think it's physical science, but take an egg, just a regular egg out of the carton, and put it in vinegar, just white vinegar, covered for about, I think it usually takes about 1 to 2 days. The eggshell will dissolve, but the membrane stays in place. So it goes from being a brittle coating with the eggshell to just that squishy membrane. Be careful, this can get messy. Hopefully it won't. But that's another experiment that you can do, and you can look that one up online for specific instructions. But the acid in the vinegar dissolves the eggshell. So that's a fun one to do, and it's, I think, fascinating it was for me. It'll be fun for your children too. And as I said, that experiment you can look up online. I'm sure you can see demonstrations of that, maybe on YouTube. In general, look up science experiments online. You can see lots of videos of various science experiments, even if it's not something that you're able to do yourself. I'm looking at my notes for some other ideas. What about PE, physical education? If you're stuck inside and you don't have a yard that you can go into, there's still some things that you can do. This is true even if just the weather's bad where you are, if it's too wet or snowy outside for you to go play outside very much. There's still things that you can do inside. Do you have any exercise equipment? Now, maybe you have a treadmill or an exercise bike or something like that. If your child is old enough to use that, maybe this is a time that they could try it out while you can supervise. But if not, what about weights? You don't have to have actual hand weights. You can use a can of soup to work out. If you have younger children, can you take some tape and lay out hopscotch on your floor? This is a suggestion from a homeschool mom friend. You can play hopscotch inside your house or your apartment with just laying it out with tape, and you can put numbers on it. I think she said they used colors, different ways that you can lay that out inside your house. You don't even have to go outdoors for that one. If you have the option of maybe a concrete driveway, then absolutely go out there and draw your hopscotch board outside. My dog has come back for a visit. Hi, Abby. I like you too. Speaking of dogs, if you have a dog, or any pet for that matter, but a dog in particular, your dog's going to need to go for walks. That's PE. Take your dog for a walk. Could you possibly teach your dog some tricks? Could you learn grooming? Maybe look up some stuff online about how to groom your pet. All of those are possibilities for things that you can do with stuff that you've already got at your house, and ways to involve your child in things that naturally come up in day-to-day life. Art projects? Do not underestimate the power of a plain piece of paper and some crayons. Even if you don't have coloring pages, you can come up with some ideas on your own. You've probably all done the just make squiggles around and around, looping around, and then color in the various sections. That's pretty fun for, I think, both younger children and older children. The older they get, the more they can come up with intricate patterns for doing that, and that's stuff that you probably already have. Color pencils are fine too, but most people, if you have children, you probably have some crayons and paper. The other thing is look up an artist, learn about a particular style of art. You might have the supplies to try it, but if not, just look up some historical information about artists, where they lived, where they learned, what they like to paint, how they like to paint. All of those are things that are really fun to look up and really fun to learn. It may turn out that your 5-year-old has a favorite Renaissance artist. You don't know that yet. Music. Do you play an instrument? If you play an instrument, do that. But if not, look up music. Let your child listen to music. We used to do polka Fridays, and we would find polka music online and listen to polka music while we did our schoolwork on Fridays. But try out different composers. Look up different composers. Scott Joplin is a favorite around here. My older daughter likes Schubert. But look up various composers. Look up different periods in music history, Baroque, classical, romantic. Look up different periods in music. More modern music. Look up music from different parts of the world. Things like different styles of music. Like I mentioned, polka. You could look up ragtime. You can look up rock music. Whatever appeals to you and your child, learn about those different styles of music. Another idea is comparing Western music to maybe, say, music from India or music from Africa. They're not necessarily based on the same tonal scales that we're accustomed to in Western music. And learning a little bit about why those types of music sound so different, I think, is really helpful in learning to appreciate music that's different from what we're accustomed to. So look up that kind of stuff when you've got the advantage of the internet. So the possibilities are endless. Almost everyone has at least a cell phone, and music is perfect for looking up on there. So look up some music. Another suggestion I heard was possibly a Facebook Live or a video to spend some time with family and friends that you're not able to see in person. If that's something that your family would enjoy doing and that your children are interested in and that you approve of them doing, that would be a great way to learn a little bit about making video and using the internet, but also a way to stay in touch with family and friends. There are lots of virtual tours of museums, of cities, of what else? Places, other countries. Like I mentioned, the treadmill workout kind of stuff where it walks you through various cities. Those are all fun ways to explore places from home. Just a few more things before I sign off and you get started with your plan. Don't panic too much that you need a schedule. It may be helpful to you to give you some peace of mind to say, we're going to get up at this time, we're going to do this first, then we're going to do that, then we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to rest. If having that schedule is helpful to you, by all means do it. But don't feel like you have to. Chances are, if you are coming up with schedules and charts and all of that stuff right now, there's a pretty good chance that it's not going to work perfectly, at least not at first. Don't let that discourage you. That is completely normal. Maybe give yourself a day or two to see how things work for you. If you have any age child, their attention span is going to be somewhere roughly around their age. So if you have a 4-year-old, don't be shocked if their attention span is 5 minutes or less. That's perfectly normal. Your child is not crazy out of control. That's absolutely normal for them. Don't be surprised if your 12-year-old struggles to focus on a specific task for more than 15 or 20 minutes. That's actually really good for them. So build in breaks, allow them to stand up and stretch, and take the time that they need to focus. This is topsy-turvy for them too, and that may affect what would normally be a longer attention span for them. But don't feel like you're not doing it right if they tend to lose interest after what seems like a short period of time. You're probably doing just fine. Another thing to keep in mind that homeschool moms typically know this, it's not likely to take you 5 or 6 hours, even if you're doing the assignments that the school has given you. Unlike a classroom, you're not working with 15, 20, 25 or more individual students and having to accommodate how quickly each one works through the various subjects. You're not having to accommodate bathroom schedules. When your child needs a bathroom break, it's a minute or two and they're back. You're not having to take everybody all at the same time. Lunch may well be more efficient because you're not having to walk 20 students in a line and get through the line at the cafeteria and then all sit down and then all clean up. Those are things that understandably take time in a public school or private school, for that matter, classroom setting, that won't happen at your house. So don't be surprised if you're done by lunchtime. Use that time for reading for pleasure, for playing outside, for just relaxing a little bit. You've done a great job. You're going to do really well. You're going to look back, I hope, and treasure the time that you had with your child. You may look back with some anxiety over this time, but your children are relying on you so that when they look back in 20 years, 30 years with their own children, they'll have very fond memories of the day that they got out of school for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and we got to stay home. You can do this. You can make this a great experience for you and your family. And when school's back, all the students are going to have great stories to tell each other and tell their teachers. Until then, if you want to know what a homeschool mom would do, ask me. I'm not the only one, but I've been at it for a while. And if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the comments and I will do my best to get back to you. All right, thanks.